Cronin's press conference. You can stop by to enter to win a sweet Trailblazers prize pack. I'll give you more on that in just a moment. All right, that prize pack that I mentioned during the update, we've got an autographed Scoot Henderson Trailblazers jersey, authentic, a signed Trailblazers pennant, and 4 tickets for the Coors Light Silver Seats to an upcoming game this season. And the Coors Light Silver Seats, if you've not sat there before, pretty good. They got the captain's chairs, so you're sitting in big, cushy chairs. You've got your own little counter and desktop to sit at, elevated above the rest of the seats. You've got the cold rail technology that you slide your Coors Light into to keep it cold during the entire game. And how about this? Phone chargers, so you don't have to worry about running your phone battery dead throughout the course of your evening at Moda Center. You can stop by our location out there at the Rose Quarter campus on Wednesday for the Trailblazers block party draft style. We're going to be down there. We're going to be broadcasting, and the Trailblazers are going to have DJ OG1 out there mixing some tunes. Things will get underway at 4:30. They're going to have blow-up games out there, Pop-A-Shot and Connect 4. Big fan of both. Face painters are going to be on hand. The Rip City remix. They're going to have sampling inside of Dr. Jack's, including Rocky Mountain Refreshment Coors Light. So a lot of different things going on. The weather's supposed to be nice next week, so looking forward to the draft. The Trailblazers will be selecting number 11. And our coverage on our Rip City Drive from 3 until 4:30. And then the voice of your Trailblazers, Travis Demers, will take over at 4:30 along with Francis Williams, as they will continue throughout the entire first round and all the way into Joe Cronin's press conference coming up after the first round of the draft on Wednesday night. So a lot of good things going on, and you can be a part of it. But most importantly, enter to win the prize pack. The Silver Seats are dope, and that Scoot Henderson jersey is nice. I have seen it. And, of course, the signed Trailblazers pennant. So some good things coming up on Wednesday for the NBA draft. Today is Juneteenth, a holiday. I'm not sure what was going on with the traffic when I was trying to make my way over to the station, but it was a mess on I-5. Hideous, absolutely absurd, from about Main Street almost back to Hazeldale and Vancouver, all the way up to the Fremont Bridge. Not exactly something you hope for on a holiday. It's like, what in the world's going on? And based on what I saw at the golf course this morning, I don't know how there are enough bodies to fill up the highway. I had forgotten about the holiday. I showed up, and the parking lot was already packed. And, of course, that meant slower play, more people out there. It was chaos. But it's all good, man. The weather's nice. I do think we have some rain coming in tomorrow and Saturday, which is very unfortunate. But it will dry up on Sunday, and then we'll get back to some warmer temperatures coming up next week. So that's kind of what's on tap for us. If you want to find me on social media, you can do so at Chad and Rip City, or you can call the show, 503-248-0620. Coming up today, the Godfather Dwight Jaynes going to join me at 4:20. I want to get his take on that ridiculous ruling by the USGA in the U.S. Open. I want to get his thoughts on the Lakers selling to the Mark Walter Group for $10 billion. $10 billion. That is a massive sum. And the Lakers, a longtime family operation with the Buss family and Dr. Jerry Buss, who was one of a kind, and now Jeannie Buss, who is in charge selling out to the Mark Walter Group, who also owns and operates the LA Dodgers. The unfortunate thing for Trailblazer fans, if you're wondering what the Lakers are going to look like under the Mark Walter Group and not the Buss family, just take a long look at the LA Dodgers. One of the best run franchises in all of sports, from the very top all the way down to the very bottom. The way that they do everything with detail and the resources that they're going to have to pour into everything is going to make a difference. Now, it's a little bit harder to put a team together in basketball because you sign a bad contract and the penalties are steep. You also are working with the salary cap and this new second apron, which has teams scared. In baseball, it's a little bit different. I think we want Shohei Ohtani. All right, how much we want to give him? $1 billion? Yeah, let's do that. And it's not a problem because there's no salary cap. But in basketball, it's different. But still, that group knows what they're doing. And they will put the right people in the right places, and that will be a well-run franchise. It's unfortunate from the standpoint that we lose some of that personal feel with the family ownership, but it's hard to argue with the success and the way that Mark Walter and his team have run things with the Dodgers. Not to mention he's involved in Formula One. He's involved in soccer. I think the Women's Hockey League. Like, this guy is putting together quite the portfolio. And he's got the resources and the financial backing to be able to do whatever he wants. So it's impressive. Very impressive. And at the end of the day, I just care about Jeannie Buss. I want her to be taken care of. I want her to be in a good spot. And I think the world of Jeannie. I think she's a terrific person. And her work after her father passed away and the way that she's kind of taken the reins of the franchise. And her biggest struggle, I think, since she's taken control has just been she's too nice. And so it's been hard for her to, kind of push certain people away because she's got a lot of friends and they all have advice. You ever notice that? Like with some friends, like they've always got advice for just about everything. And Jeannie's had a lot of these voices in her ear over the years, and it's been hard for her at times because everyone's got input. Everyone's got the magic formula, the solution, the answer to everything. So we'll see how things shake out. I'll get Dwight's thoughts on that. And then Ben Golliver, Washington Post, will join us. He's in Indianapolis. He'll be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight. It took him a while to get there from Oklahoma City. I want to get his take on the basketball. He's a junkie. He loves hoops. I want to see what he thinks about the series and the way it's been played by both teams and the competitive nature of the series. We know that the ratings are going to be in the tank. It's Oklahoma City and Indiana. No one cares. But from a basketball standpoint, it's been a very competitive series, a lot of great storylines, and some very good play. Now, the question is, tonight in Game 6, will the Pacers get enough from Tyrese Halliburton to be able to force a Game 7? He's got the calf injury, which appears to be an issue, and the question is, how much does he have in the tank? Here he is being asked about the injury.
How smart do you have to be, I guess, in this situation, or are you not even thinking in those terms at this point?
That reporter sounds kind of snooty. How smart do you have to be? Tyrese, excuse me, how smart do you have to be with the calf injury to make sure you don't aggravate it some more like you did in the first quarter of Game 5?
How smart do you have to be, I guess, in this situation, or are you not even thinking in those terms at this point?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask. I mean, you're asking me, so I think I have to be as smart as I want to be. I have to understand the risks, ask the right questions. But I'm a competitor. I want to play. I'm going to do everything in my power to play, and that's just what it is.
All right, with Halliburton, he was largely ineffective in Game 5. I think he had 7 rebounds and 6 assists, but he was 0 for 6 from the floor, finished with 4 points. Like, they need him to be productive. I admire the fact that he wants to go out there and play. We have enough guys in the NBA who get a hangnail or a stub toe or whatever the case may be, and they're like, I'm going to rest. Load management, I'm out. I'll catch you tomorrow. There's a lot of guys like that in the league that just aren't willing to gut it out, right? But Tyrese Halliburton, even with this calf injury, which can be a problem. Wasn't it Kevin Durant that had the calf injury in the finals, which he pushed and resulted in a Achilles issue where he ruptured the Achilles? I think so. I admire the fact that Tyrese wants to go out there and gut it out for his team, knowing that, they need him. He wants to give whatever he can. He wants to help them get over the top and force a Game 7 so they have a chance to win a championship. Like, I love everything about that. But I also know that athletes sometimes have to be saved from themselves. So I think the best play here is let him play. Let him start. Let him go out there and see what he can do. And it's going to be on Rick Carlisle to make sure that he's got the quick hook. If he's not getting it done, if he's ineffective, if he can't get his shot to go down, if he's not getting separation, if he's turning it over, and the Thunder are exploiting him on the other end of the floor with his defense, then Rick Carlisle's got to be like, hey, bro, I love you. I appreciate the work, but we're going to put TJ McConnell in there because I know you don't have it right now. And then try to save whatever he's got, and maybe he can be more effective in Game 7. So Coach Carlisle, it's going to be on him to make sure that he doesn't allow Halliburton to hurt his team. And it's going to be pretty important for the Pacers tonight. Here's what they need to do to win. They just have to protect the basketball. You cannot give up 32 points off turnovers. You cannot allow the Thunder pressure to speed up your process to where you start getting careless with the ball. Because when you turn it over against the Thunder, aside from game one when they didn't convert, they're just going to make you pay. They'll kill you. But it's so hard because they don't have a weakness on the floor. They don't have a weak spot defensively. And so that first wave on the perimeter, they're like right up in your face. It's pressure, constant. And if you somehow get by that, they've got dudes like Isaiah Hartenstein or Chet Holmgren waiting to block your shot and reject you, to change your shot, to make you think. It's relentless. So I like the way that Oklahoma City plays defense. It's kind of refreshing to see a team busting their rump to get after it defensively and cause all sorts of issues. But if the Pacers can win the turnover battle, that's a big if, and get into a good flow early, they've got a chance to win and force Game 7. What they don't want are unforced errors, turnovers leading to easy buckets for the Thunder, and they find themselves down by double digits at the end of the first quarter or down by 12 going into halftime. They can't do that. They've expended so much energy just to get to this point in the series that I think in Game 6, with the fatigue starting to set in, I don't think they can overcome that type of deficit. So they've got to come out, just like we've seen throughout this series. I think it was Game 3, the aggressor. Who's going to be the aggressor early, and who's going to put the pressure on the officials to make the calls? Free throw shooting has been critical in this series. The Pacers have got to come out and be the aggressor. Now, for me, I don't have a dog in the fight. The Thunder win it, the Pacers win it, whatever. I'm pulling for the Pacers because if I don't have a dog in the fight, my default setting is pull for the underdog. So I would like to see the Pacers get it done. That'd be pretty cool. And I like Game 7s. I like the finality of it. I like everything being loaded into one game. Like, I want to see that happen. I think we deserve that, right? But they've got to come out the aggressor, and they've got to protect the basketball tonight. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We definitely got to hear from LeBron. He can't stay out of his own way when it comes to his pie hole. He has to open his mouth and say dumb things. And I've got to call him out on it because he is about that, and yet he's like, what's the big deal about that? Oh, my goodness. All right, 503-248-0620. Michael Shacker is here. Hope you're enjoying your Juneteenth, wherever you may be. Dwight James at 420, Ben Gulliver at 520. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, the Godfather Dwight James coming up at 4:20. All right, just to give you some background on Mark Walter. He is the LA Dodgers primary owner. And ever since he took over, the Dodgers have basically been number one in just about everything in Major League Baseball. He's 65 years old, and he's served as the controlling owner of the Dodgers since 2012. In May of 2012, Guggenheim Baseball Management bought the franchise from Frank McCourt for $2.15 billion. And at that time, it was an MLB record. So $2.15 billion back in 2012. People thought it was crazy at that time to buy the Dodgers at that price. Walter is also CEO of investment and advisory firm for Guggenheim Partners, which spearheaded the move. But he was accompanied by longtime sports executive Stan Kasten and Lakers legend Magic Johnson, who are both part owners. The investor group notably included Todd Boehly, who is the CEO of holding company Eldridge Industries and also a frequent business partner of Walter's. Kasten is the team president. However, Walter is the forefront of the ownership group. With Walter as the Dodgers' primary owner, the team has won a pair of World Series titles, one in 2020 and the last one, of course, last year. The Dodgers haven't missed the postseason since their 3-year drought from 2009 to 2012. So they've been in the postseason basically every year since he took over, and they got 2 championships. Walter became a stakeholder in the Lakers back in 2021. It was then that he received a right of refusal of the majority share of the team. In July of that year, sports and entertainment company AEG announced that Walter and Bailey had acquired 27% minority interest in the Lakers. Bailey joined the Lakers board of directors and represented his interests as well as Walter's. Magic, who won 5 titles with the Lakers in the 80s, shared his excitement about his business partner's newest purchase Wednesday. And, you know, it's always dicey when Magic goes to social media. Quote, Laker fans should be ecstatic. A few things I could tell you about Mark. He is driven by winning, excellence, and doing everything the right way, and he will put in the resources needed to win. I can understand why Jeannie sold the team to Mark because they are just alike. They are competitive people. They have big hearts, love to give back, and both prefer to be behind the scenes. This makes all the sense in the world. I am so happy and excited for the Laker fans all over the world. Johnson also said that Buss and Walter share a real friendship. As compared to what, a fake friendship? Quote, both are extremely intelligent visionaries, great leaders, and have positively impacted the greater Los Angeles community. So there you have it. Now, Walter's also involved in other pro sports. In addition to the Dodgers and the Lakers, Walter is involved in the WNBA and F1, plus he's a part-time owner of a Premier League soccer team. So there you have it. Walter bought a stake in the LA Sparks and then won the league title 2 years later in 2016. Walter's company, TWG Global, owns the incoming Cadillac F1 team, which will debut on the grid next year. Through the Mark Walter Group, Walter also owns the Professional Women's Hockey League, which debuted in 23-24. So this guy's all over. So my bottom line here is that if you're a Laker fan, first of all, shame on you. But second of all, you should be very happy. I think the Buss family, I love Jeannie. So I'm a big fan of Jeannie Buss. But the reality is that ever since Dr. Buss passed away and his kids took over, the franchise has not been run the same. I mean, Jeannie Buss, God bless her soul, her heart, she gives her best effort. But she allows too many people around her that she loves and trusts to influence her decision-making. And it's been very difficult for her to break away from some of that because everyone wants to share input with Jeannie because she's willing to listen. That's the type of person she is. So what the Mark Walter Group will do is when they come in is, one, they'll bring their proven track record, their blueprint for how to make things happen. They're going to hire the right people, put them in the right place, and that franchise will be run from the top down in the same way that you see the Dodgers. They'll put more money into, research and development. They'll put more money into scouting. They'll put more resources and money into the overall experience, into game nights, the entire shebang. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're a Trailblazer fan, and we know that the team is going to be sold, and this process is getting underway, Mark Walter is the exact type of owner that you would want to take over the Trailblazers. Someone with incredible resources, a willingness to spend whatever it takes to win, an understanding of how to set up an organization with the proper structure, and then the ability to go out and hire the right people and plug them into the right places. Like Walter would be a perfect example of the type of person that we're looking for here in Portland. And that's what it comes down to. Big resources, big money, and surrounding yourself with the right people to get the job done. And that's what the Dodgers have done. Ever since Walter took over, they have put the right people in the right places. And it's, look at what's happened. The Dodgers are, the show in baseball right now, coming off a championship, and their stadium experience, the way they scout, the way they build their roster, the willingness to spend. And as I mentioned before, just the idea of, giving $1 billion to Shohei Ohtani. Well, when you're there and you go to Dodger games at Dodger Stadium, this is amazing. I got this number last night. So when I was at Dodger Stadium just a few weeks ago, just blown away by how many people from all over the world are there watching Dodger baseball and spending money on food and merchandise, and especially when it comes to Shohei Ohtani. So this number is amazing to me, but it shows the smarts of, spending the type of money they did to get Ohtani, who is a global superstar. 90% of Japanese who visit California go to a Dodger game. 90%. And they're there buying tickets, buying food, buying merchandise. And Shohei Ohtani just continues to be the gift that keeps on giving. So that's what they're going to get. The Lakers are going to be a well-run franchise. And for the Buss family, I think it was Dan Wojcicki from the LA Times who covers the Lakers. This makes sense to me, too, financially. All the Buss kids are getting older now. But I think the way it works is right now I think there's 6 Buss kids. So if you divide the $10 billion between the 6, it comes out to like $1.6 billion. But if one of the Buss children were to die, their share of the $10 billion doesn't go to next to kin. It's then divided between 5 Buss children. And if 2 were to die, then it would be divided by 4. You understand what I'm saying? So if they sell now and they divide up the proceeds from the $10 billion sale, then that $10 billion is divided up between the 6. And then that money, once they get it, can then be distributed in a part of their family. And so really it's a matter of taking care of the family. This also ends a lot of the infighting within the family. We saw this go down with the Pat Bowlen group when the Broncos, after Bowlen passed away, there was a lot of infighting amongst the kids because they all want their piece of the pie. And so now Jeannie and her siblings can sell. They can divide up the money, and it stops the infighting and the issues they were having from that. So there you have it. Pretty crazy. $10 billion. So the Blazers, what do you think they're gonna sell for? $5 billion? Is it going to be $6 billion, or is it going to be between 5 and 6? The number is going to be extreme. I mean, it is an elite club to get into sports ownership. It's amazing. $10 billion. That's a far cry from what Dr. Jerry Buss paid for the Lakers when he purchased them back in the day. All right, speaking of the Lakers, by the way, LeBron James, according to reports, he's comfortable with the purchase of the Lakers by the Mark Walter Group. Well, I'm sure glad that LeBron's comfortable. And what if he wasn't comfortable with the move? Would Walter just back out and be like, yeah, I'm good? LeBron doesn't want me to buy, so I think I'll just step down. Anyways, LeBron on a podcast was asked about, rings and the importance of rings when it comes to determining the all-time greats. Take a listen to this nonsense.
Funny, I don't know. I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the all be all of everything. You sit here and tell me, you know, Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley and Steve Nash, our wasn't unbelievable. Like, oh, they can't be talked about or discussed with these guys just because this guy won one ring or won two rings or won, like, it's just weird to me. It's like saying Peyton Manning can't be in the same room with Brady or Mahomes because he only has one ring. They don't never discuss that in their sport.
Right.
Or telling me that Dan Marino is not the greatest slinger of all time, or he can't be in the room with those guys because he didn't win a championship. They don't discuss those things.
All right, first off, Peyton Manning has 2 rings, not 1, LeBron. And don't disrespect Peyton like that. That's PFM, all right? The sheriff. All right, can you all see what's going on here with LeBron and why he's acting like rings all of a sudden don't matter? Do you understand why he's saying that and why he's backing away from ring culture? Would you like to take a guess at why he all of a sudden doesn't understand the importance of rings when it comes to talking about the all-time greats? I think I know the answer. It's pretty obvious. Now, look, no one is saying that Steve Nash or Allen Iverson or John Stockton or Karl Malone, no one is saying that they're not great players. They are. I grew up watching a lot of great players that never won a championship. Alex English was the leading scorer in the decade of the 80s in the NBA. Most people don't know that. I loved Alex English. He was a great player and a great scorer, and he was money from the baseline. But he's not considered one of the greatest players of all time. He never won a championship. John Stockton and Karl Malone are all-time greats. They were awesome. But they're never going to be in the GOAT discussion because they don't have the hardware to back it up. Same thing in football, right? Why is Tom Brady, why is he at the top of the GOAT conversation? Because he won 7 Super Bowls. Now, I could make an argument that I could find maybe 1 or 2 other quarterbacks that I've seen in my lifetime that I might pick ahead of Brady, but 7 Super Bowls is hard to get past. That's a massive number. I mean, John Elway, my favorite quarterback ever. You know, the big cloud over his head for years was he couldn't win the big one. 0-3 in Super Bowls, couldn't get over the hump, couldn't win the big one, couldn't get it done. And then finally he got the breakthrough and got a championship in his win in Super Bowl 32 over the Packers. That instantly threw him into a different tier, and then he finished up his career by going back-to-back. So he is looked at differently because of what he was able to accomplish with those 2 championships. So it's not about being an all-time great. Charles Barkley, Allen Iverson, Karl Malone, John Stockton. What this comes down to is the separation, because LeBron is not in a discussion with AI or Charles Barkley. We're comparing LeBron to MJ. And if you're going to be in the all-time greatest of all-time discussions, rings are going to be a part of that. We're going to look at championships because is there any sport where we look at a potential GOAT who never won a championship? Is there? Of course not. Because GOAT, I mean, the idea of playing a sport is to win. It's to get the trophy. It's to get the ring. That's the ultimate accomplishment in sports, is to win a championship. And if you don't have the hardware, you're not going to be considered among the greats. And I think LeBron knows that. And that's why he's acting like ring culture is crazy now. And that rings he thinks are overrated. Because he is at 4. He's got 4. 2 with the Heat, 1 with the Cavs, and 1 with the Lakers. MJ's got 6. And he wants so badly to be considered the greatest of all time. He's got his PR team working overdrive over the last few years, making arguments on behalf of LeBron. But I think LeBron now at this stage in his career where he's 40 plus and he's in the twilight, he knows that the Lakers are not going to win another championship while he's there because they don't have the tools, the talent, or the assets to be able to improve the roster. And so he's going to end his career with 4 titles. and he's going to be 2 behind MJ. And that frustrates the heck out of him because he wants to be considered the greatest of all time, and that's why he came out and said this.
Funny, I don't know. I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the all be all of everything. You sit here and you tell me, you know, Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley and Steve Nash, our wasn't unbelievable. Like, oh, they can't be talked about or discussed with these guys just because this guy won 1 ring or won 2 rings or won, like, it's just weird to me. It's like saying Peyton Manning can't be in the same room with Brady or Mahomes because he only has 1 ring. They don't never discuss that in their sport.
Right.
Or telling me that Dan Marino is not the greatest slinger of all time, or he can't be in the room with those guys because he didn't win a championship. They don't discuss those things.
Yeah. Thanks, LeBron. Really appreciate that. That's pretty thick coming from a guy who bolted out of Cleveland to get to Miami to join forces with D. Wade and Chris Bosh so he could win a championship. It's also pretty thick coming from a guy who got the heck out of Dodge in Miami to go back to Cleveland because they had improved their roster so he could win another championship. And then when things went sideways again in Cleveland, he got to L.A. real quick and made sure he got himself Anthony Davis so he'd have a chance to win another championship. Anyways, that's LeBron, though. He's a fraud. He is a fraud, and that's why I don't like the guy. He is a tremendous player. He is a marvel. I marvel at him when it comes to his conditioning and the way he's been able to keep himself in shape all these years to play at a high level into his 40s. It's unbelievable. But he's always trying to say things. He's always trying to position himself. He just tries way too hard. He's a fraud. That's all. He's a phony. And no one likes a phony. I certainly don't. Do you? I don't think any of us do. So there you have it. That's what it comes down to. Ring culture. The rings don't matter to LeBron anymore because he knows he's not going to catch MJ. But you know, if he had 8 rings or 7 rings, the only thing he would be talking about is, hey, I've got the hardware. And that's why he's a fraud. He would constantly be reminding you that, hey, I've got 8 rings. I'm the best. I'm the greatest. I'm the GOAT. But he doesn't, and therefore ring culture is crazy, and rings are overrated. All right, we'll keep things rolling. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. The Godfather, Dwight James, is coming up at 4:20, and then Ben Golliver from Indianapolis at 5:20 here on the Rip City Drive. I love Rick James. He actually worked with Eddie Murphy and got him a #1 song. My girl likes to party all the time. There we go. Now, what was the bet? I got to think about this. It wasn't between Rick James and Eddie Murphy. I think it was Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. I think that's what it was. I've talked about this recently on air, but like a lot of things in my life, the details got a little bit fuzzy. Let's see here. Eddie Murphy. This was a massive song in my life, my brother's life, and my two cousins, Becky and Kimberly. We thought this was amazing. This is like early 80s. Jamming this at grandma's house during the summertime.
It's probably the only Eddie Murphy song you could play at your grandma's house.
Yeah, anything Eddie Murphy, I had, and I've talked about this before, you know the deal. My mom is a wonderful mom, but she also walks the straight and narrow path. And so there were just certain things I knew that if I wanted to bring it into the house, I had to smuggle it in, because if my mom found it, she was going to get rid of it. I told you that she busted it. I'm still mad about this. I'm mad about a lot of things from my childhood. One of them was, I can't remember how old I was, 5 or 6. I was supposed to take some medicine because I was sick and I didn't take it and I was crying about it. So my mom, I was taking a bath, and I'll never forget this. She's like, hey, would you like a milkshake? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. And so she made a milkshake and I started drinking it, but it tasted like crap because they had stuck the medicine inside the milkshake. And I refused to drink it. And then my dad, he took his belt off and held the belt and made me drink the milkshake so I could get the medicine. I'm still traumatized from that experience. I'm also mad that we moved out to the Northwest before the Fat Lever Calvinat basketball camp that I was promised I could go to. But when we moved out, I didn't go to the camp. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Can't we stay for the camp? What? The Northwest needs us right now. I can't stay for Fat Lever and Calvinat. You know, the mind of a young boy. It's like, come on, man. This is very simple. Let me go to the camp and then we can move. No, I didn't get to go. And then the time that my mom found my H2O album, Hall & Oates, which she promptly busted into a bunch of different pieces and put it in the garbage. And I was very distraught over this because my cousin Darren had helped me acquire the album at the music store. And it's a great album, by the way. But I guess the song that finally convinced my mom to break the album was Family Man. I'm a little Chad. I don't know. I don't even know what there's. I've already talked about this before. I don't pay attention to the lyrics. I didn't know that the guy was having an affair. I had no idea, Mom. Why are you busting up the album? And how am I supposed to listen to Maneater now? You just busted into 100 pieces. And so, like, Eddie Murphy the same way. Like, I remember I was on the school bus, and where I grew up, like, probably not the best thing for the young kids, but elementary, I grew up in a small town. Elementary, junior high, and high school kids all rode the same bus. So if I wanted an adult education, I would just head to the back of the bus. Well, one day, someone had the boombox out, and they were listening to Eddie Murphy, Delirious, on the bus. It's pretty funny. He lent me the cassette tape, so I had to shove it down my pants and smuggle it into the house because I knew if my mom found it or heard me listening to it, that, you know, she'd do the whole deal where she'd pull the tape out and destroy the cassette tape. Very dangerous. Movies the same way. The problem is all the stuff back then was bigger. It's much harder to smuggle a VHS tape into your pants, into the house without your mom knowing something's going on. Nowadays, everything's small. It's either digital or it's on a CD or it's on some little thumb drive. I wish they would have had that kind of stuff when I was younger. It would have been easier to sneak stuff in and out of the house. You got the old VHS tape jammed down your shorts. It looks a little suspicious. And I made the mistake, too, of I would always, like, when I would get home when I was younger, I'd always give my mom a hug and a kiss goodnight. The problem is when you get older and you might have been doing some things outside the house that were inappropriate, if I didn't go to say goodnight to her when I got home, then she would know something was up. So I painted myself into a corner there. You know, so I had to check how do I smell? Like if you're at a party or, someone's been smoking or whatever, the whole situation. My mom's got like the most sensitive nose on the planet, too. All right, here it is. Here's the deal. Eddie Murphy, and this is Rabbi Google, so it's got to be true, right? Eddie Murphy recounted a bet he made with Richard Pryor for $100,000, stating that Pryor bet he couldn't make a hit song. The bet resulted in Murphy recording the song Party All the Time with Rick James, which became a hit. And according to Murphy, Richard Pryor never paid up. He still owes him $100,000. Because I think what Pryor told him was you couldn't make a hit record without swearing on it or without the jokes. And he's like, screw you, man, I got this. And so he made a hit song that went to number one. Party All the Time went to number one. Eddie Murphy and Rick James. But that's a great bet because I could just picture Richard Pryor like, you can't, come on, man. What are you going to sing? I like watching some of those old shows. Do you like Carson? I love pulling up, I forgot, I think it's on MeTV, one of the stations I get in my room. They show old episodes of Johnny Carson. And I love it because there's so many guests that come on that I enjoy. But Johnny Carson was a master of late night television and so unique in how he communicated to the camera, to the people, the viewers. But I've watched a lot of the different episodes when Richard Pryor was on. Terrific. But I love that. Come on, Pryor. He passed away before he paid up Eddie Murphy. I just think that he should have paid Eddie because not only did he make a hit record, but it went to number one. I think that's worth $100,000. There you have it. Rick James. But that just goes to show you that how talented he was. Actor, comedian. What the heck? I'll try singing out. Hit it. Have a number one hit. It's pretty crazy. All right. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620. The other thing I was thinking, too, how much fun is it going to be when the WNBA's in action with the Portland Fire and we get to see Caitlin Clark? I mean, she is a lot of fun to watch. I got to share. Chris Burkhardt was telling about an exchange that he had in regard to the WNBA putting, and what do you call that? What is that word? Trademarks. They put trademarks on Portland Fire. So that's going to be the name of the WNBA team, Portland Fire, which I think is cool. But apparently the name is insensitive. So I'll show you what Chris Burkhardt got into a discussion this morning. The Godfather Dwight James coming up at 4:20. 503-248-0620 is your phone number into the show. A little Lionel Richie. This is a great song. Great video, too. Hello. This is a great album. Lionel Richie just hit after hit after hit. Now, was it Lionel or was it Michael that burned his hair with the Pepsi commercial? That was Michael Jackson. Yeah. All right, Dwight James coming up at 4:20. Ben Gulliver, Washington Post at 5:20 here on the Rip City Drive. All right, 4 o'clock chat here. The NBA Finals Game 6 tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Thunder 1 win away from a championship. The Pacers are trying to force Game 7. Tyrese Halliburton dealing with a calf strain. He's expected to play, and here he is on the injury.
I think I have to be as smart as I want to be. I have to understand the risks, ask the right questions. But I'm a competitor. I want to play. I'm going to do everything in my power to play, and that's just what it is.
Tip-off will be 5:30 on ABC. Right now, the Thunder, a 6.5-point favorite. The Pacers trying to force a Game 7 back in Oklahoma City. Elsewhere, Ime Udoka has agreed to an extension with the Rockets, which will make him one of the highest-paid coaches in the NBA. Join us Wednesday the 25th at the Rose Quarter campus and Dr. Jacks for our coverage of the 2025 NBA Draft and the Blazers block party draft style. Coverage will start at 3 with the Rip City Drive and will continue throughout the entire first round. Yeah, a little Rockwell, one of the great one-hit wonders of the 80s. It's a no-brainer back in the day. It's just like, hey, Michael, can you lend your voice to my song? Yes, okay. Hit song coming. I think that was the question that Michael asked Paul McCartney when he called him. Hey, Paul, would you like to get together and make some hits? He didn't say make music or make songs. He's like, would you like to get together and make hits? That's pretty impressive. All right, checking the latest mock draft on Tankathon. Cooper Flagg, of course, expected to go number 1. Dylan Harper, number 2 to the Spurs. VJ Edgecombe, 3 to the 76ers. He's the guard from Baylor. Con Knuppel from Duke to Charlotte. Ace Bailey to the Utah Jazz. Trey Johnson, guard from Texas, to the Wizards. Jeremiah Fears, point guard from Oklahoma, to the Pelicans. Brooklyn, expected to take, I can't pronounce his name. Kasparas. Yeah, I'm not even going to try. They got the Blazers taking Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina, power forward. 6'7", 239 pounds. I know Derek Queen has been mentioned, the center from Maryland. I think it was Dave Decker. A couple of people concerned about his defensive capabilities. So we'll see what happens. From the people I've spoken with, who cover the team, people that I know that are around the team, the consensus that I get when asked about what the Blazers need to do, the main objectives for the course of the offseason, everyone's in agreement that moving Jeremy Grant is like the number one priority. That you can move him and create the space, the opening, to where you can have Tamani Kamara and Denny Avdia starting side by side at the forward spots. And that's definitely in the best interest of the team. I truly believe that. The team is at their best when they have those two guys on the floor together because of their playmaking, their defensive capabilities, their tenacity, and just the overall energy and the way that they play. And those two guys are like quintessential Chauncey Billups type guys. So Jeremy Grant, and then from everyone else I talked to, Anthony Simons would be number 2 on the list. That you made the decision to draft Scoot. You made the decision to get Shaden Sharp. You've got your backcourt of the future. And now you've got to move off Anthony Simons to create the opening to where you know who your starting backcourt's going to be. Now, the Blazers have options with Anthony Simons. They can re-sign him. they could let him play out the year, and then he comes off the books. You could hold on to him for the beginning part of the year and look to move him at the deadline. The only thing that would shock me is if they extended him and have plans for him to be here moving into the future. I just have a hard time seeing that based on the moves they made in the draft. And then after that, DeAndre Ayton, it wouldn't surprise me if he's on the roster to begin the year. It's probably going to be hard to move him. He's going to be a big expiring contract. Maybe you could look to move him at the deadline. And then you've got the other veteran pieces after that. Robert Williams III, he's been injured, so I think it'd be hard to move him right now. And Matisse Thybulle, I wouldn't be surprised if he remains here in Portland. But the top two, the consensus from the people that I talk to all the time that cover the team, Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, 1 and 2. But I have heard nothing to give me any type of indication of whether or not something's going to happen. Now, Dave Decker joined me earlier this week, and he thinks the roster is going to look pretty much the same when the season begins. And the reason why is that while he agrees that moving Grant and Simons could definitely be beneficial, he doesn't think the market is going to be such around the league to where the Blazers are going to get the value required to make a move. And the one thing we know about Joe Cronin and Mike Schmitz is that they're not going to make a move just to make a move and take a loss. They're not going to do it. They're not going to make a move. They're not going to give up assets to move somebody out of town. Like, that's not going to be the play. So if they're looking to make a move on draft night, if they're looking to get deals done at the beginning of July when free agency opens up, they're definitely going to be looking. But if the value's not there, then the advantage is that there's no pressure to get something done right now. They can be patient, they can wait, and then execute later on down the road. But I do think that the pathway for the franchise, the focus, the emphasis, I think it's changed. I think the years of, improving draft position, tanking, whatever you want to call it, I think those days are over. I think what they're going to look to do now is continue to, work on the roster and get it, into the shape that they want with the type of players they want. I do believe that, but I think the focus now will be on, being competitive on a nightly basis, winning more basketball games, and trying to get into the playoff mix in the Western Conference. So I'm excited about that. But there's no pressure for them to make a move right now. I mean, the biggest move in my mind, of course, is Jeremy Grant. Can they find a team that looks at Grant and can see him as a piece that could help them compete? Because he can make the three, he can defend a bit. Like, he could be a valuable piece on a team that's competing, for a championship, that type of team. And the Blazers are able to get maybe a couple of, players out of the mix. I doubt you're going to get a big-time draft pick, but maybe you get a couple of players, to make the money work out. And you've got more pieces to work with. And it would not surprise me if the Blazers select a player at number 11. There is a possibility. I've heard some whispers of maybe the Blazers looking to move up, or they could always, look to move out of number 11 and move back to get more draft capital. So I think that's a possibility. And the good thing is that, with that group of Cronin and Schmitz, you know that they've identified players, in the draft that they like, that they think would be a good fit. And in terms of, I don't care so much about specific names. I just know the types of players I want, because I'm watching Oklahoma City and I'm watching Indiana. I want long, athletic players who are willing defenders, two-way players. And that's the type of roster I would try to compose right now in the NBA. Give me guys that can do it both ways. Give me guys that can defend. Give me guys that can impact the game in a variety of different ways outside of just making shots. And that's what I love about watching the NBA Finals right now. Like the Thunder, as I've mentioned, they don't have a weakness on defense. Their weakest link defensively in their starting lineup is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's the MVP. But they have willing defenders everywhere. They go to the bench and they bring in guys who can block shots, who can defend on the perimeter, who play with a certain intensity level and passion. Indiana's the same way. How about Rick Carlisle and the job he's done to get this group defending? And they've got long and athletic bodies all over the place with depth. And the one thing we know about watching the playoffs, versatility, athleticism, two-way players, and depth, you've got to have it because of the wear and tear and grind of the postseason. Now, if I had to take a guess at what's going to happen tonight, I'm pulling for the Pacers. I want them to force a game 7, but I have this feeling that Oklahoma City is going to end it tonight. With the injury to Halliburton and the Pacers not being 100%, and with the type of defense that we're seeing Oklahoma City play right now, I just think they're going to continue to apply the pressure. They'll force turnovers. They'll get easy buckets tonight, and they'll be able to get Indiana behind the 8 ball. And I just think it's going to be too much for them to overcome. That pressure is relentless. You got to be at 100% to be able to deal with it. But it's been a troubling trend in this series with the Oklahoma City pressure. They're turning over the Pacers, and the Pacers have been a team throughout the year that don't turn it over. But they just don't stop. Like, the pressure on the perimeter is crazy. They got guys around the rim who can shot block. There's just not a lot of openings out there. And when Tyrese Halliburton is not at 100%, we saw it in Game 5, couldn't get the separation, couldn't get to his spots, didn't make a shot, and his impact was limited. So Rick Carlisle's going to have to keep a close eye on Halliburton. If he can't get it done, if he's not getting it done, you got to have a quick hook because you're up against it now, trailing 3-2 in the series. So my guess is Oklahoma City will finish it tonight and win the championship, but I'll be pulling for the Pacers because I would like a Game 7. I'd like to see the Pacers back in that building once again in Oklahoma City to see what they could do. And, you know, the Thunder have responded to all these different challenges throughout the course of the year and the playoff run. I want to see how they would handle the pressure of a Game 7 at home, where you're expected to win, you'll be favored to win, you'll probably be a double-digit favorite. How would they handle that pressure in a Game 7? And, you know, in my lifetime, I started watching the NBA mid-'80s. There's only been a handful of Game 7s in the NBA Finals. Game 7s are special. Game 7s are fun to watch. So that's what I'm pulling for. And then we'll get the draft on Wednesday. The draft party is going to be pretty sweet. It's going to be over at the Rose Quarter campus. Our broadcast will start at 3 o'clock with the Rip City Drive. It will run up to 4:30. And then Travis Demers and Francis Williams will take over and anchor the coverage from Dr. Jax all the way through the end of the first round and Joe Cronin's press conference. Now, the Trailblazers right there at the Rose Quarter campus will have face painters. They'll have the Blow Up Games Connect 4 and Pop a Shot. The Rip City Remix are going to be on hand. DJ OG1's going to be out there bumping music. And there's going to be beer sampling in Dr. Jax, including Coors Light. And you can stop by because we put together a sweet prize pack, autographed Scoot Henderson authentic jersey, 4 Coors Light silver seats to an upcoming game, and an autographed Trailblazers pennant. So if you come down to the Rose Quarter campus, you can enter to win the prize pack, which will be there. And you can have a chance to go to a game in style this year with the Coors Light silver seats. And that Scoot Henderson jersey is nice, very nice. So that's what's going to be cracking on Wednesday, the 25th, which is NBA draft night. And it's now spread over 2 nights. First round on Wednesday, second round on Thursday. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Little Al Jarreau. Nice work, Shacker.
I've seen him perform in Gresham. Mount Hood.
You
Community
saw him
College.
in Gresham?
Yeah,
At the Mount Hood Jazz Festival?
correct.
Jay Graydon produced this album and said that Al Jarreau was fun to work with. I interviewed Al Jarreau once. I can't remember what we talked about. It was a long time ago, but Al Jarreau is very talented. I love this song. All right, we'll come back. The Godfather, Dwight James, got to get his take on $10 billion for the Lakers. And we'll get his take on Game 6 tonight and what he's hearing about the NBA draft, which is coming up on Wednesday. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Shaq, we're playing a little mystical for the Godfather Dwight James, who joins us right now. You got to enjoy that, Godfather.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorites from him, but yeah, anytime you play some mystical, I'm fine with it.
Well, I thought maybe Shacker thought you wanted to shake that ass on Juneteenth.
Well, I have been all day, so I'm a little tired right now.
Well, it's great to talk with you. I wanted to start with the NBA Finals with Tyrese Halliburton. You know, he's got the calf injury, and, you know, he wasn't the same player in Game 5. He was largely ineffective. And I'm just wondering, with the coaches that you've talked with in the past, what is the proper procedure when it comes to a star player who wants to play but may, you know, not be at 100% or could hurt the team if he's ineffective? How do you manage that situation if you're Rick Carlisle?
Well, you know, Chad, as soon as I think they listed him as game time decision, right? Usually when you see that, it means the guy's going to play. And I don't think he would stop his best player from playing if he wanted to play. And this is a special case, too, because, you know, if you lose the game, you got how many months to recover, you know, and I don't think I'm sure their doctors have told them the ramifications of something going way wrong and maybe, you know, getting into an Achilles tear or something like that. And I think they believe that that's not much of a possibility. But I think he has to play if he wants to play. That would be my stance on it. And I think that's normally the way the coaches in the league handle it.
You know what's been impressive to me is, you know, when I watch the Thunder play, Godfather, it doesn't appear they have a weak link on the floor with their defense. They've been harassing Indiana into turnovers with their perimeter defense. And then if you get past that front line, they've got willing shot blockers in Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. They're tough.
Yeah, they're real tough. They have so many options, too. They can play you whatever way you want to play. You know, they can play in the half court. They can run with you a little bit. And when they go small, they're pretty tough. But when they have the two bigs on the floor at the same time, pretty much impossible to get inside on them. And that's been a problem for the Pacers. And I think Indiana's done well just to get as far as they have. And they were underrated all year. I agree with that. But I don't think they're as good as OKC. And what would bother me if I were in the league right now is, man, Oklahoma City is positioned to do this for many years, and they've got draft picks to back up the players they're going to have to get rid of to stay under the second apron, and there's a lot going on with them that is going to, I think, guarantee a long run at the top of this league if they don't have major injuries.
Yeah, there's no question, man. They are playing great basketball, and you can see it right now with their play. Like, I know that they were confident throughout the course of the regular season, and their point differential would indicate that. But I feel like over the last couple of weeks, like you can see their confidence as a young team continuing to grow. Where in Game 5 it came, you know, to fruition, where it's like they know that they are capable of winning a championship, and they're really good. You could see it almost in the way they were attacking defensively. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I think so. And again, you know what it always comes down to is who's making shots and who isn't. And boy, Indiana couldn't buy a basket in the fourth quarter. You know, you continue. It drives me crazy when you're not hitting well from three and you just continue to shoot them. And I know the proponents of that will say, yeah, the odds turn around in your favor. You're going to start making them. You just don't have the time to wait for those odds to turn around. And if teams are draining threes on me, I'll come down and take twos at my end. And I wrote this the other day. If they hit 3 threes and you don't score, you're down by 9. If they hit 3 threes and you hit 3 twos, you're down by 3. So that's a big difference for me. And I just think it's really important when the other team is making those long-distance shots that you get something on the board.
Yeah.
You can't just come down and try to match them with their threes when you're not making threes. And you know how there's such a random nature to the three, Chad. We've talked about it before. You know, some nights they go in and some nights they don't. We've seen the Trailblazers have nights where you can't beat them. They're just shooting too well from three. And that's it. By the same token, there's nights where they can't win because they're just missing so much from there. It's rather random. Even if you have pretty good three-point shooters, there's going to be nights where they're just not making those shots. They're too tough. So it's an interesting facet to the way the game is being played in the NBA right now.
We're talking with the Godfather, Dwight James. I think it was 1979. What year was that? Dr. Jerry Buss purchased the Lakers along with the Kings and the Forum for $67.5 million, and they have just sold the Lakers for $10 billion. Can you believe that number?
Yeah, it's rather high, Chad, and it really has ramifications to, with the league thinking about expansion now. I'm not even sure that it wasn't the timing of this is just about right for raising the expansion fee through the roof. And it's just one team selling for that much. Everybody knows that. But everybody also knows that the trend is upward in the value of those franchises. And this time around, they're going to demand a lot of money for expansion teams if they're even going to admit expansion teams. I'm still not convinced that they're going to make the move because these greedy guys just don't want to share their TV money.
Yeah, that's true. Is it fair with the purchase from the Mark Walter Group to look at the Dodgers to kind of give us an idea of how things might run with the Lakers moving forward?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be interesting, to see how it works out because Jeannie Buss still is listed as being the governor. In other words, the owner and the person who has a say on personnel and front office and all of that. But when you don't own the team, it's hard to hold on to that. I think Mark Cuban found that out in Dallas.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be making all the decisions, too, until Luka got traded. And then he wondered where that came from. But it's going to be interesting to see how it works. But obviously this guy's a pretty good owner and knows what he's doing. And he's certainly got the money to do whatever he wants to do. And the Dodgers have spent. I mean, that's the hallmark of their team. It's just let's wait and see how much deferred money they're going to try to get through in basketball like they have in baseball.
Yeah, the deferred payments where you can continue to build your team. Speaking of the Lakers, I want to play something for you from one of our favorites, LeBron James, who was on a podcast, and he was asked about the importance of rings when it comes to the all-time great debate. Take a listen to this.
Funny, I don't know. I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the all be all of everything. You sit here and tell me, Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley and Steve Nash, wasn't unbelievable. Like, oh, they can't be talked about or discussed with these guys just because this guy won one ring or won two rings or won, like, it's just weird to me. It's like saying Peyton Manning can't be in the same room with Brady or Mahomes because he only has one ring. They don't never discuss that in their sport. Right. Or telling me that Dan Marino is not the greatest slinger of all time, or he can't be in the room with those guys because he didn't win a championship. They don't discuss those things.
I mean, Godfather, is this guy a fraud or what? He's changing the conversation again.
Well, Chad, I think you know that the only reason he went to Miami is he's a big fan of highlight, and he wanted to get down in Miami where he could watch some highlight matches. And, he certainly didn't go down there because it improved his chances to win another ring. Not another ring, 5 rings, not 6 rings, not 7, 8 or 9 rings is what he was promising.
Jeez.
So,
I think what's happening now is that he knows that he's not going to win another title with the Lakers, and he'll end his career with 4, and that's going to leave him 2 behind MJ. And so, therefore, now he's trying to minimize the importance of rings because he wants to desperately be known as the greatest of all time. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, he's really grasping at straws now. And, I'm not the biggest ring guy. I don't evaluate players based on that because I understand the realities of it. But he's a big ring guy. He always has been. That's the irony of the whole thing. That's dictated his entire career. He's gone off in search of more rings, and whether that was right or wrong, that's what he did. And now to turn right around and say that winning a ring wasn't important to him, that's just garbage.
We're talking to the Godfather, Dwight James. What would you say is the top 1 or 2 priorities for the Trailblazers this offseason?
Well, Chad, here's the way I look at it, okay? We're going to have a new owner of this franchise at some point. Either it could even be before this year starts, or it could be during the season, or it could be after the season. Who knows? But I keep hearing it might happen quicker than people think. But if you're in that front office right now, what you really want to do is show people who might be buying this team that you're qualified to go forward in the front office of this team, that you have something going, you've got a plan, you're on the upswing. So I would expect this summer more than anything, and this offseason and this draft, they're going to go for it. They're going to throw everything out there on the table to try to get to the playoffs this season. That's the way I see it anyway. It's something that they've kind of promised the fans that they were, but I think more than anything, it's a matter of job security that you show progress this coming season. And I would expect, I'm still not convinced they're not going to trade their pick this time, although there will be a couple of players available to them, but I think they'll trade the pick, package it up with Simons or with Ayton or with Grant or something like that. Try to get a player in here to help. And I'm not even sure what it is they're looking for. They're pretty much settled up front, other than, backups. And I think that, they're still not sure about their backcourt. I keep getting the feeling that, are we totally sold on Shaden Sharp? Are we totally sold on Scoot? And they've not found out enough even yet to decide. And, you got Sharp, for instance, he's, extension eligible, and they have a lot of decisions to make, and they're going to have to make them here pretty soon because they've held off on a lot of tough things, including a possible Simons trade. That's been out there now for a couple of years, and I'm just not sure you're giving Scoot a fair chance until you remove Simons, from the roster, because, I think a lot of people are going to be saying Simons is a better player than he is. Why isn't Simons playing? And I don't think it's fair to Simons to make him a sixth man at this point of his career. He's too good for that. He should be starting for about half the teams in the league, so or more than that, I guess. But it's going to be an interesting offseason for sure, Chad. They got a lot of moves they could make. They need to probably trim the salary down a little bit, get rid of a couple of those big contracts. So I'm looking forward to the offseason to see what happens. You're going to have a good time on the radio, I think, talking about all the moves they'll make or they'll not make,
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's going to be very interesting. How does that work with if you have a coach and a GM who have gotten new contracts and then the new ownership comes in? How does that work? Do they stick with the current guys, or can they buy them out, or how does that normally work in that type of situation?
Well, they'll do their due diligence on both and decide what they want to do. But if you're spending billions on the franchise, it's not going to worry you too much if you have to pay somebody off at $7 or $8 million a year or whatever those guys are making. Not going to be much of a problem. And they'll do their due diligence. They'll ask players. They'll talk to players. They'll talk to other people in the league. They'll find out. I think if you get a good owner, these guys that are here now, they'll get a fair shot at retaining those jobs, I believe. So that, too, will be an interesting decision that they have to make.
Oh, by the way, how frustrating was that to watch Oregon State squander their opportunity in the top of the ninth? They tied the game, but they had a chance to get more, and they couldn't get it done. That was frustrating.
Yeah, Chad, that was really tough, but it was kind of an old bugaboo for them. They've had trouble hitting with runners in scoring position in the off season quite a bit, and even during the regular season, it's cropped up on them. And their bullpen has been a problem. I'm real interested to see what will happen in the off season. They got to the World Series, which gives you the opportunity to add some pretty good people in the portal. And then also your high school recruiting should be good too. But I've written this, and I do believe the school needs to make sure they take care of the baseball program. And you said it truer words were never spoken, I think, when we talked before, Chad. What's wrong with being known as a baseball school? Nothing, nothing. And they could be known as a baseball school if they're not already. And it's certainly the premier piece to their whole athletic department. And I just hope they get the NIL money and then the salary money to keep the players they have and to recruit good new players.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they over the last 20 years, they've been as good as just about anybody in the country at baseball. I think sometimes you just realize, like, this is what we are. This is what I am, and you just hang your hat on it. There's nothing wrong with that. They've been awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the problem is it's not really a revenue sport, particularly in the ballpark they play in, which just isn't big enough to host larger crowds. They don't even, a lot of college teams run a lot of promotions the way minor league teams do, even have bobblehead days and all those things. But there's no point in doing that down there because they can't get any more people into their ballpark anyway, and they're selling out quite often as it is. So they don't have room to expand, and they have to depend on big boosters and their alums. And from what I've heard, they lean on their alumni pretty hard. They got a lot of guys making a lot of money playing pro baseball right now, and I think those guys are probably helping more than anybody at keeping their funds up where they are.
All right, one final question for you, because when it happened, I thought about you instantly. What did you think about Sam Burns getting punked by the USGA when his ball was sitting in that lake on the fairway?
Wasn't that the worst? I mean, how can you make a decision like that, Chad? I couldn't believe it. I looked back at the replay a couple of different times. What does it hurt to move the ball not closer to the hole, of course, but give them a fair lie to hit in? Why would that be a problem? I don't understand why they would fight that. I just don't get that. It was obvious he was going to have trouble hitting out of there, and it wasn't his doing. It was Mother Nature, and you're supposed to give relief on that, and I'll never understand it. And it might have had something to do with the way the tournament turned out, too.
Yeah, it did. I think it definitely had a chance to alter the tournament. But that's one of those situations where if you're in a tournament or you're playing with anybody and they see your ball in that type of situation, like, it's almost a no question. Like, yes, you should get relief from that. No one would question that. But they did. They're such sticklers,
They did.
Gosh.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, I was happy to see Spawn win. I think he's an everyman. He's that guy playing at the public course trying to get better. And they say he still goes to Muni courses down in Scottsdale 1 or 2 times a week just to remind himself of where he came from.
Oh, I love that.
And to get work in, and that's he's. I really like the guy. I think he's got a great personality. He doesn't seem to get down on himself or too emotional or anything like that. And I'm glad to see him win a big one. That was great.
Yeah, he was a cool guy. Great story. I loved it. And that putt he made on 18 was amazing. The only thing the USGA could have done that would have been better was they could have hired Scott Foster to come out and deny Burns the relief, right? And he could have used all the theatrics that he does when he's reffing games in the NBA.
Yeah, but Scott's known as the extender, Chad.
Yeah.
And if he would have ruled that way, it wouldn't have extended anything. So it would have been the wrong guy to bring out. And he's not working the game tonight. I was kind of surprised to see, but maybe they'll bring him out for a game 7 if there is one, and he'll try to get that thing fixed to be a best of 9 or something. I don't know.
Well, Godfather, I appreciate the time, buddy. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and you and I will catch up soon.
Well, Chad, I think I might be seeing you on Sunday.
Are you coming up?
Isn't there some golf?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You going to join us? Good?
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't miss it.
Well, I look
I'm going to come up.
Well, I know Nancy's going to appreciate it because I think in true Nancy fashion, I think she told me she's playing tennis in the morning, and then we're going to do our practice round up in Longview after that. So she's getting after it, so she wants to ride in the cart, and you can keep her company.
Yeah, she is the Bo Jackson of amateur sports around here. She's playing 2 sports on the same day and often does that.
I love it. I love it, buddy. All right, I'll see you on Sunday.
Yes, sir.
All right, there's the Godfather. We'll keep things rolling. You can reach out 503-248-0620. Don't forget, Ben Gulliver, Washington Post, talking hoop, coming up at 5:20. And little Warren G. Shacker, they did a mashup mm, on one of the night talk shows. Not Jimmy Fallon. Who is the one on ABC? Who was boys?
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel did a mashup with Warren G and Kenny G. This song, they did this song with Kenny G playing. It was pretty awesome. Let's see if I can find a sample of that. And of course, the song that was sampled here was Michael McDonald's "I Keep Forgetting." Let's see here.
Kenny G on the flute.
Kenny G and Warren G. Here it is. Take a listen to this. This is Warren G and Kenny G on mashup with Jimmy Kimmel. I love it because it's the two most unlikely characters teaming up to make a great song.
Oh, it works. Warren G needed a new partner because Nate Dogg, rest in peace.
That's pretty nice. I love that. I like the mashup. You've probably seen that before on Kimmel, haven't you?
Yeah, I've heard you play it before. You played it for me.
Oh,
I liked
yeah.
it.
Yeah, it was good. That's good. I like that kind of stuff. But that's an all-time line right there. That sample, well, Michael McDonald. A lot of people are down with Michael, and I'm cool with that. 503-248-0620. NBA Finals, Game 6 coming up tonight. Tip-off here about 40 to 45 minutes away. Indiana trying to force a Game 7 back in Oklahoma City. Ben Golliver, Washington Post, will join me coming up in approximately about 30 minutes. He'll join me at 5:20. He's in Indianapolis right now for Game 6, and so we'll get his take on the series itself. Most of the people I've talked to that cover the league, they've all enjoyed the series immensely. It's going to get poor ratings because of the two markets that are involved. And, with the Pacers and Thunder not being household names, but a lot of people have enjoyed it. I certainly have. I think the whole playoff run has been good, very watchable basketball. I'm just hoping that, Tyrese Halliburton can be effective tonight. Effective meaning not just out there on the floor, but being able to make a difference for his team because they're going to need as much help as they can get tonight. The Thunder, they can, see a little blood in the water right now. So they're going to try and close it out and get the thing taken care of tonight. I just want a Game 7 because I like the drama, and I want to see how that would play out. Game 7 back in OKC, the Thunder, a dominant home team. How would they handle the pressure? And I like those type of stories. So we'll see how that continues to shake out. Don't forget, Wednesday will be our draft show. RipCityDrive 3 until 4:30 from Dr. Jax over at the Rose Quarter. And then Travis Demers and Francis Williams will anchor coverage the rest of the way through the first round and Joe Cronin's press conference. You can stop by and enter for your chance to win our prize pack, including a Scoot Henderson autographed jersey, 4 seats in the Coors Light Silver Seats to an upcoming game this year, and a really cool autographed Trailblazers pennant. So you can stop by to enter for your chance to win the prize pack. The Trailblazers is going to be right there in the Commons area with a lot of different things going on. DJ OG1 will be bumping some music. They're going to have face painters, so you should bring the kids out and then get a pinwheel put on their cheeks, which is cool. They'll have some blow-up games, including Papa Shot. The Rip City Remix are going to be on hand, so a lot of different things going on. Beer sampling inside of Dr. Jax as well. So a lot of things coming up on Wednesday. So we get the draft on round 1 on Wednesday, round 2 on Thursday, and then shortly after that, we'll get into the beginning of July with, the launch of free agency. So, a good chance that we're going to see some things go down. And we just talked to Dwight, and his whole point is that, he thinks the front office is going to be very active because they're trying to make a statement to the new ownership group coming in that, we got a handle on things and, we're moving in the right direction. And I'm most curious, if you ask me what I'm most curious about, it's not who they might pick at number 11. I just want to know what they're going to do with Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons. Are they going to make trades? Will they be on the roster when the season begins? Like those two players and what happens with them is what I'm most interested in. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll come